Hello friends, welcome to the channel, Bob here, and welcome to another Embers Adrift video. This is like a follow-up from the previous video that I did, because I think it's important to give praise and positive feedback where it's due. I know on YouTube can often be a lot about negativity because that gets what get clicks, but I thought it would be nice to just do a positive video on the development team, really, because I think that like Embers Adrift, I think has for everything else that I've spoken about, it has the best developer feedback and communication I think that I've come across in an MMO. I know it's a smaller game, but a smaller population, but these guys are on the forums and on Discord like every day, you know, responding to even some of the smallest issues within the game. And I think it's pretty amazing, and I think it's something they deserve to be praised for. I've never come across this level before. You know, Project Gorgon has some feedback, Strategy Avatar has some feedback, some other games, Realm Online, all that sort of stuff. They all have feedback, but in this case, you know, the developers are on, the guys and gals there are on the forums and Discord all day when they're up. You know, answering questions and giving opinions on feedback, that kind of thing. And I think it's really, I think it's great. You know, I think that it's something that they should definitely be praised for. They implement stuff as well. You know, I mean, it may not always be the way we want it to be implemented. And there are certain things that obviously they stick to because it goes out of their design thing, and there's certain things they're just not going to change, and that's fair enough. But certainly, like I've found from like a quality of life stuff, you know, I think that they do really listen to that kind of thing, and they do try to implement things that are discussed. You know, like I mean, I did a video a couple of days ago, and then in the patch that came about, you know, they're talking. They've added, I think, for the patch this week. So for the weekend when I will be playing to test out some of this stuff, they've added a couple of extra buttons to your skills bar. So instead of only having 6 skills available, you've got 2, which I think is great. I don't think it unbalances things in any way, because you've got your power limitations as to how many skills you can use and whatnot. So I think that's really good, particularly as a healer, and I think as a tank as well. Particularly, it'd be quite nice to have more utility on the bar, and I think it will. Like for group play, I think it will even further increase how good the group play is with regards to combat strategy and that kind of thing. So yeah, I think that's a really, really good change. They've added in a third profession for us at level 12. So at level 12, you can choose another gathering or crafting profession. Sounds great to me. You know, I mean, I know I've spoken before about giving everyone just everything, but this could be a good compromise. The fact that there are 6 skills, gathering and crafting skills. And it means that if you want to do some stuff, you know, you can have your main character and an alt, you know, and they can pretty much cover stuff that you need, that you want to do. If you're stuck for someone, for whatever reason, who can't help you out with some materials and that kind of thing, I think adding one skill, I think that's a good compromise. It just means you can have a couple of characters that can kind of cover everything for you if you need to. They're talking about like the darkness that I was having a real problem with. Apparently that was a bit of a bug, and I think they've changed it. Because for me the slider wasn't working, so I was moving the slider across and it just wasn't having any impact. But apparently the slider is having a thing, you know, having an impact now. So yeah, that's great, and that's the kind of stuff that they do. You know, maybe they'll change some stuff back, I don't know. You know, and I know there are certain things that we want or we would like. I know some stuff that you guys have mentioned that you would like, but and they're adamant it's not going to happen, but that's just how it goes in game development, I guess, isn't it? You know, we're not going to get everything we want. I know that like mages is a big thing for many of you. You mentioned to me. Yeah, I mean, I've you know, I think we've tried to come up with some ideas about that kind of thing. Like I think of the battle chemist in Project Gorgon, who does have some skills that are kind of feel more magic, maybe a higher magic than what they're going for in Embers, but certainly the whole aspect of having flasks and throwing them around to do some damage or to have some effects and stuff, I quite like that. I know D&D has got its own alchemist type class as well. That's more magic based because it's an offshoot of a mage, right? A traditional mage, so it casts spells as well, I think. But I like the idea of that, and I don't think it's any less realistic than than standing there and bandaging someone while they're in combat. Just chuck a flask at them, and it opens up other things as well. So you could use corrosive flasks to debuff armor. You could take a healer and just change some of the skills. So a debuff could be throwing a flask, healing could be throwing a flask. You could do some dot damage. You could throw a flask to do so many different things. I know it's not a mage, but I think it just. Whereas at the moment we've got classes that are all melee based, I just think it's just something different for people who are maybe not into melee too much. And I think I think there's talk of an alchemical crafting skill maybe, or an alchemical skill to do with Ember maybe. That's going to be one of the things in the game. Maybe you could tie it into that. And then maybe a chemist class, combat class, could make his own flasks of stuff. Maybe you could mix up some liquids to get different effects, that kind of thing. So I think there's ways of doing it, but again, it's a time thing, and a money thing. It is the time and the money there to make these kind of changes. But I think it's a good thing that they're implementing some stuff, especially mainly quality of life stuff, because changing big systems, I think now is just not going to happen from a time and a financial point of view, unfortunately. But that's how these things go. But quality of life stuff, I think, and not quality of life stuff that I think changes the difficulty of the game, but just quality of life stuff that means that your progress through the game is just a better experience. I think the one thing that I was concerned about was a couple of you said to me that, and I know a couple of friends of the channel said to me that they started the game again after the wipe, but they just found the opening a bit of a drag, and they just stopped playing at level 2 or 3 or whatever it was. And I know 2 of you said that to me, and that's a bit of a concern. And I think it's a concern because I think there's actually been studies that show that most people quit MMOs within the first hour. I guess probably mostly free to play ones. Because if you pay money for it, you probably need to be a bit more sure. But I do think about any upcoming free weekends that they have, and how the introduction to the game may put people off. And I do understand it, because the introduction to the game is a bit muted. You log in and you just go off and start killing animals essentially, and there's not really any introduction to the game. Now there are going to be quests and stuff available. There's going to be a quest system and a quest running through the game. So I guess when that system goes in, as soon as you log in, you'll probably have NPCs to interact with where your quest starts, which I think is good. But one of the things I love about EverQuest is that I love the initiation process of going to your guild master and handing in a note and getting a piece of armor. It was just a lot of the stuff I'm going to talk about now is like fluff stuff, okay? And I know some of you will just think it's not important, but I do think it's important to how you interact with the world when you first enter it, and the feedback that the game's giving you. So I know for some of the classes you didn't really get any textual feedback. So if you were a shaman, or if I was a shaman and I go and hand my note in, I get a chest piece, I put it on, it doesn't change how I look. I think a lot of that was to do with texture memory limitations and other graphical limitations. But certainly from the Mage Guild point of view, I love that. And I know it might sound superficial, but I love going to my mage trainer, giving him my note and getting a chest piece, putting it on. If you're an enchant, depending on what class you were, enchanter, necro, or wizard, or mage, the robe colour was different. I think later on they introduced a thing where you could upgrade the robe so you got slightly higher AC and that kind of thing. And that sort of feedback was really really important. And I think it's the kind of thing that Embers is currently missing at the start of the game. As I said, some of that feedback may come when you introduce quests and stuff, but I think it would be nice to log into the game and talk to an NPC and they say, oh, I can see you're a healer. here's a chess piece to help you on your way. I think it just it's not the fact that it's giving you something that makes your character more powerful. I don't think it should do that. It could just have a couple of AC on or whatever it is, maybe a 1 stat point or something, relevant to your class. It's more the fact that the world is giving you feedback as to your choice, and it's giving you feedback with regards to what's up and coming. You're a healer. Here's your healing. Here's something to get. Here's a little gift to get started with. Off you go. Go out in the world and do some good stuff. I just think it's that kind of feedback. And I think it would be good if each base class had its own look as well. So the Defender's chess piece was more plate-based, leather for Stalker, and and maybe a mixture for the healing class or something different. But yeah, as I said, I know it might sound superficial and it might sound like fluff, but I think these things are important when you first log into a game, because first impressions are important, and there are studies that show that many people log into an MMO and pretty much quit almost immediately, and it's that feedback that I think that you need, which I think is important. So something like that. I mean, it would be quite nice actually if you had like an armor crafter NPC and you spoke to them and a little quest, so just so that you introduce you to killing animals rather than you just going out and starting killing stuff. Maybe the NPC will say, go and kill some deer or some boar or whatever the starter mobs may be. Bring this item back and I'll craft you a starter chest piece of armor. That would work perfectly well, and it'd be a nice introduction to the game. I think the other issue is base classes, and I must confess I didn't get on with base classes. I think it was in EverQuest 2, because for me it just feels like it takes too long to get to where you want to be, particularly when it's your second or third character, particularly when you've already played the game. I know that when I started after the wipe, I started a healer, and to be honest with you, I just wanted to get to my warlord specialization. I didn't want to go through the base class stuff. I do like the base class stuff. I do like the base class thing for one reason, and it's because you can change specialization. So I could level as a warlord, and if I don't like it, I can swap to different specialization. The thing is, though, you kind of have to level that again anyway, and you lose all the levels in warlord. So I don't really know how many people are going to use that. Like for me personally, if I leveled warlord to 30 and I wanted to try a different healer, I'd start a new character, because I'm not sure if there's an expedited XP gain. Maybe there will be, because you're a higher level base class, but you won't have any of the later level specialization skills. So I guess maybe what you could do is agree with a group of friends that you're going to change classes, and they just drag you along to power level you. But I don't think that doesn't really fit in with an immersive thing from my point of view. So I'll probably just start a new character. So I'm not sure actually how often that will be used. But yeah, I don't know what the answer is to the base class thing. I never liked it in EverQuest 2, because after my first character, even if I played a different class or a different base class, I just still wanted to get to the specialization, because, and I think that's part of the problem with the introduction to the game, is because if you, apart from the weapon you use, the classes are very similar early on. So if I start a defender and level it's level 6, and I start a healer and level it's level 6 for where the specializations start, it's a very similar experience. You've got very limited skills and stuff available, and you don't really have any of your real class defining skills. But I don't know what the answer is. If I don't know if it's possible to, like, if you level a healer to a certain level, then maybe when you create a new one, you don't have to go through the base class thing again. I don't know. It's difficult, but I do think that was also an issue, because I know that I've tried all 3 classes, and going through the base class process feels very similar for each of them. I know the skill's not exactly the same, and I think the healer gets a heal, for example, as their third skill, but the actual process of leveling, because they're all melee classes, and you're just swinging your stick or sword or whatever it may be, it does feel different. but I can't really think of a way that jazzes it up without kind of breaking the base class thing. So you start off as a warlord straight away, for example, and you get some of the base class skills. So you're getting some of the base class skills early on. You know, I'm not. Yeah, so I think those are the two things at the moment that I'm feeling when I log into the game. Is that it feels like it just takes too long to take off. And I think that maybe it's just a bit more feedback from the world would be good. But you know, that's all being worked on, I'm sure, and there's a quest system going in and whatnot, and all that kind of thing. But yeah, it's but I do really appreciate the feedback that the developers give. It's quite amazing, really. Like you know, the amount of response every day that you see from them. I think it's great, yeah, and I think it's something that should be praised. When something is worthy of praise, I think it should be, and I think that these guys. The feedback they give is a lot every day, you know, and they do change stuff. As I said, we might not agree with it. There's some stuff that I don't agree with, and there's some stuff that, you know, I personally think holds the game back. But that's how it is, you know. I think the best way we can hope for as players is a change, not changes to the core systems, because you know they're there for their own reasons, whatever that may be, whether it's a design choice, thematic, or whether it's to do with resources, wherever it may be. These things are there, but things like an additional profession at level 12, a couple of extra, you know, skill slots on your bar, all those kind of things, I think do help to improve the experience as you're going through it. So I know that there's no mage class, but that's just one of those things that I was talking about that is just part of the design of the game. Yeah, but everything else I think is, all the other feedback I think is really good that they give, and I think the fact that they implemented and trying to change things is really, really good. I mean, the third profession thing I think is amazing. I didn't think that was something that they would look at, but it's funny because just that one extra profession changes the whole. I think changes your whole experience, you know, because it means that you can. I know some people like to have a main and an alt. Yeah, but this kind of. And this synergizes well because it means that you can have a main and an alt, and you can cover the crafting. You can cover the crafting and gathering professions if you need to yourself. But I don't think it takes too much away from the community experience, because the thing that I find with systems that try to enforce a certain way of playing is that. For people that want to do that, they'll do that. And for people that don't want to do it, they'll find ways around it. And so I just think it's better to have a middle ground where you're giving someone an option either way and they can make a decision based on that. I'm sure many guilds will just have gatherers and crafters and that kind of thing. And that's all great, you know, and I don't think it will impact that at all. But yeah, anyway, that's enough waffling for now. I'll stop the video. I just wanted to give credit where credit's due, because often we don't. And I think that the Embers Adrift developers really give regular feedback every day. And they do implement some of the stuff that we talk about. And I think that's really, really good. Anyway, thanks for watching, and I'll speak to you again soon.